Harry Potter series was an immediate success, and it managed to have an ongoing series for the next 10 years with the majority of the same cast and crew. The first film was an instant classic, while the second film went for a bit of a darker tone, but in my opinion just ran a bit too long. With the third film, they actually broke the yearly cycle by releasing it in 2004. There was a new location for Hogwarts because they had time to finish the exteriors that weren't ready for the first two, but gone was Chris Columbus, who brought the book series to life. Instead, they had Mexican director Alfonso Cuarón take over for the third film. At the time, he had only created smaller, lesser-known films before taking on one of the biggest franchises of all time. It may have seemed strange at the time to have someone so artistically different from Chris Columbus to take on the next installment, but Cuarón's choices would influence the direction for the next films as far as style and pacing go. And to me, he created the best Harry Potter movie. To this day, I've found Prisoner of Azkaban to be the perfect balance of the fun and mystery that has come before, but mixing the dark style and visuals necessary for a quality, breathtaking piece. There's nothing against the first two flicks, which had their own iconic moments, but I prefer the inspiration found in Azkaban and how a somewhat lesser step in the saga managed to become one that every sequel has tried to copy. I don't remember the books well enough to bring them into my analysis, but I know that the third one doesn't have Voldemort, and it doesn't have huge milestones that would be incorporated into the final acts of the series. Most of Prisoner of Azkaban is backstory for Harry's parents and their relationships with others, along with some more magical lore. It's not bad, but I could see arguments for this one not having anything too special or important. The adaptation increases the scope and scale of the production, improves the effects and performances, and has cinematic elements that break away from the stream of exposition. I remember when this came out, there was serious talk about this one being even scarier than the last two, and honestly, as a kid, the snake was already pushing my limits in Chamber of Secrets. So, I was preparing, but revisiting the previous one on DVD numerous times, I knew I could handle what's next. But even then, at 8 years old, this one got to me. The werewolf fight near the end is terrifying, especially since the werewolves look different from what audiences have come to expect. In fact, this is probably a more realistic interpretation of what a human would look like as a deformed creature. If that's not enough, there's also soul-sucking dementors, which people find scarier than Voldemort himself. They're cloaked, and will literally remove your soul if you're at all threatening to them. They protect Azkaban, which in itself is a freaky idea of a prison. How do you keep magical people locked up? Well, they found a way. In the later movies, they changed the Dementors slightly. They lost the cloaks, and the Patronuses seem to be way easier to create. It lessens their impact, but here, they're still just as chilling. The child actors are getting older, and as things move along, they are getting better. Radcliffe was always the worst offender as far as bad reactions and limited range of emotion go, but here, he delivers some pretty powerful stuff. As a kid, it was really empowering to watch someone younger take on a huge role like this. Some of the outfits are all over the place though. They didn't require the cast to wear just school robes, so they have some more modern attire. They also took away Draco's gelled up, slicked back hair, and at the time, I thought they got a different actor for the role because he looked almost unrecognizable compared to the last one. An actor who did get replaced was Richard Harris as Dumbledore, who sadly passed away before filming began on Azkaban. To take his role, they had Michael Gambon. It's a popular discussion to decide which is the better Dumbledore, and honestly, Richard Harris is the better version for those specific films. However, I think Gambon is excellent once Order of the Phoenix came around, and by Half-Blood Prince, he sold me as the definitive Dumbledore. Probably because he eased up on the scenery chewing. He's so goofy in this one, I can't help but laugh, but not for the right reasons. I think he just overdid it, and went less for the Obi-Wan version of a wise master, and more for the Yoda silliness that came from Empire Strikes Back, except he doesn't back down from the silly until the 5th movie. I enjoy some of the expanded roles. The late Alan Rickman gets more screen time and personality, and we get a different side to Mr. Weasley compared to his bubbly self in Chamber of Secrets. However, the new actors take over the production by the end. Gary Oldman is one of my favorite actors, and as Sirius Black, he does the role justice, as a twisted, scorned, and betrayed wizard who spent years locked up in an insane asylum, but also someone who's trying to be free of his broken past. Timothy Spall is completely sucked into the role of Peter Pettigrew, but the one I never gave enough credit to was David Thewlis as Professor Lupin, who is exactly what I'd expect from a man who's taken over by his cursed form. In fact, and I might be crazy here, but I think he would have been a decent version of the Hulk. A British, older version of the Hulk, but you get what I mean. It's unfortunate that while I think this is by far the best Potter movie, I'm not sure if it's the best adaptation, especially for the hardcore fans who will nitpick anything that's cut out or changed. I'm not going to go through everything just because this is strictly a movie review, but I get slightly irked that most of the exposition from Harry's father, the Marauders, their nicknames, and the significance of the Shrieking Shack was all cut out. In the end, it didn't become pertinent to the story, which I understand and almost completely agree with, but my main issue is, with the later movies, they are constantly referring to the Marauders storyline and nicknames when they were never explained in the films themselves. These small references confused me as a kid until I read the books and got a better grasp. I just wish the later movies would have explained it, or would have completely omitted the existence of the storyline. It doesn't really matter though, because everything is so interesting. I especially love this movie's version of time travel. I think this might be the best representation of time travel, honestly. Sure, Back to the Future is one of my all-time favorites, but the theory that any possible time travel that has ever happened, if it's even possible, has already been done, and we're sitting in the final timeline, is mind-blowing. The final sequence is so fun, and one of the few examples I can think of for a so-called fourth act in a story. Like I said, the visuals support an engaging mystery. The flight of the Hippogriff is one of the most beautiful flying scenes I've ever seen, and it really proves that John Williams' best Harry Potter score was here. I love the themes introduced in the first two, but this has its highest moments. The music during the Patronus scenes are incredible, and make me emotional just from everything going on. Truthfully, the series didn't even need to get any better, but it improved upon what worked while taking things in a different direction visually. Honestly, David Yates is probably the most important director in the franchise as far as the style, tone, and pacing go, because he's directed the majority of the films, but Cuarón really laid the groundwork for what made Harry Potter great and unique. That's the thing. There were already fantasy movies about magic, but Harry Potter needed to find something that distinguished itself from the rest, and Cuarón did that wonderfully. I would say this is the best Harry Potter movie, if not one of the best fantasy movies ever made, and personally, it's the only one in the saga that could make it into my top 10 all-time favorite films. Possibly. There's a lot of good movies up there. Maybe top 20 or 30. Don't put me on the spot. But it's a great movie, and I don't know how to end this video except to say, go watch it right now if you haven't, but who are we kidding? You've seen it. Special thanks to Lucas for this Patreon request. Thanks for watching the video, and special shout out to Anthony, Anna, Lucas, NolanCho, Ryan, and Robert for the support on Patreon. By joining my Patreon, you can get exclusive videos and blogs, and for only $7, you can request your own movie review. I hope you stick around, cinephile, and have a happy, productive day.